The Ford Ranger has been around for ages, and the last version was one of the most popular pickups in the UK, despite the fact it used the same basic platform for well over a decade. It was time for a big change then, a step forward this, the new Ranger. Notice I didn't say all new, despite it being bigger and bolder than ever with its brash American-inspired styling. It's actually an extensively revised version sitting on the old car's mechanicals. Engines include a 170 horsepower 2-litre turbo diesel, a brand new 240 horsepower 3-litre V6 turbo diesel, and a 3-litre twin-turbo petrol V6, which in some markets gets 400 horsepower, but for the UK and Europe it's restricted to 292 horsepower. Shame. In the case of this particular car, the 205 horsepower 2-litre twin-turbo diesel is carried over from the old car along with its 10-speed automatic gearbox. And in the UK, that is expected to be the bestseller. In terms of pricing, this double cab variant in relatively high-spec Wildtrak trim comes in at £40,221. However, that price is a little bit cheeky because it doesn't take into account VAT, which you can claim back if you're a business user. But if you are liable for the VAT, you're looking at a punchy £47,220. At the back, you have exactly what you would expect to find, which is a load bed. It's 1.5 metres long, which is about the same size as the outgoing model. And this liner here is much smarter and tougher, and it comes as part of a pack where you also get this. You don't get that in a Volkswagen Golf, do you? Talking of Volkswagens, this Ranger has actually been built as a partnership with VW, so the new Amarok is basically a Volkswagenified version of the Ranger. Ideal if you like your Ford pickups with a bit of a Volkswagen flavour to them. What you will get though, whether you buy a Ranger or an Amarok, is plenty of seat space once you've clambered up, and you get a great view out. One thing to note though is that the seats are a little bit more comfortable in an SUV. There are some surprising creature comforts though, including a centre rear armrest. The driver and the front seat passenger still get a better deal though, because there is plenty of room and plenty of adjustment in the seat and also in the steering wheel. The cabin isn't short of a cubby or two either. There are reasonably sized door bins, 2 glove boxes, and even some hidden extra cup holders. Neat, eh? Being the flashy Wildtrak version, this is quite a long way from the workhorse ones at the bottom of the range. And that shows itself in, for example, we've got these lovely leather seats and orange stitching and detailing scattered throughout, and generally all the toys you would expect of a moderately expensive large SUV. This includes one-touch electric windows all round, dual-zone air conditioning, heated seats and a heated steering wheel. There's also a 360-degree parking camera, plus all-round parking sensors, although even entry-level UK models get a regular rear-view camera and rear parking sensors. What you don't get on lower spec Rangers is this impressive 12-inch portrait touch screen, and it comes with built-in sat-nav, or you can use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and then use Waze or Google Maps if you would prefer not to use the built-in system. The portrait layout of the infotainment screen is also useful because it allows you to display quite a lot of different info at once and makes it easy to switch between functions. It is a touch laggy though, so you might have to be a bit patient with it. We also like the fact that not only can you adjust the climate control settings on the touchscreen, there are also physical buttons, as is for the volume control on the stereos. It's definitely a big improvement here over the outgoing model. The placement of the switches and the design of them is all brilliant. Top marks too for installing proper off-road hardware. Unlike many SUVs, the Ranger has some serious off-roading chops. All models are four-wheel drive and you get a terrain response system to help you figure out tricky surfaces. You can also switch between rear drive and four-wheel drive in both low and high ranges and even lock the rear differential. Where we'll have to mark Ford down a little bit is some of the plastics in here are a little bit hard and scratchy, which is fine for ones destined to be workhorses, but ones that are going to be used as family cars and are a little more plush, such as this one, well, it's not quite so acceptable. Out on the road, the Ranger feels remarkably civilised. Anyone used to old pickup trucks might be expecting it to buck and bounce its way down the road, especially without a load in the bed. But that simply isn't the case. Despite having leaf-sprung suspension in the back and an old-fashioned bolt-on body construction, it feels impressively smooth. It's comfortable and quiet, and the body doesn't even lean too much in corners, and although you do feel the occasional shimmy through the body, it's mightily impressive. There is a problem though, sort of, and that's the fact that the old Ranger felt just as capable, which is probably more praise of the old car than criticism of the new one. This is not a fast car, of course, and a 2.3-tonne pickup with a 2-litre engine probably shouldn't be, but there's a laziness about the gearbox, especially when it picks up from a standstill or doesn't, as the case may be. So the 0 to 62 time of 10.5 seconds feels even slower than it actually is. That 10-speed auto is much happier when you're not pressing on too hard though, as it constantly juggles gear shifts to ensure you can ride on the surge of torque from those twin turbos. Driven like this, the Ranger makes effortless progress, and it really suits a gentle motorway cruise. Head into town with it and you might encounter some issues with the sheer size of it. Having said that, its bluff squared off edges means it's easier to place than you might think, and it has a tighter turning circle than you might give it credit for, which, considering the size of it, it really needs that for there to be any hope in turning it around. Despite an 80-litre fuel tank in the Ranger, you will eventually have to stop for fuel too. And when you do, you'll be lucky if the fuel economy you've achieved betters 30 miles per gallon. Although, in fairness, Ford only claims official fuel economy of 32.1 miles per gallon, so you should be able to get surprisingly close to the official fuel consumption figures. So, what have we got? We've got a vehicle that is barely any better to drive, barely any more comfortable, and barely any more fuel efficient than its predecessor. But, and it's a big but, that predecessor was already really rather good. On top of that, it's now got a better design, better built interior, and has a much more up-to-date infotainment system. As for those looks, well, if you're going for a car like this, then bold is probably better. And the price, well, it's not particularly cheap, and there are some dubious plastics. Having said all that, overall, the new Ranger is a winner. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're considering buying a Ford Ranger or indeed any car, head to CarGurus.co.uk to find loads of great cars for sale from top-rated dealers. And with our super clever pricing technology, we'll even tell you whether it's a good deal or not.